Korg has been making synthesizers since 1973, when they released the Mini Korg 700. The 700 proved to be a great first synth for many musicians that couldn't afford something like a Moog or an ARP at that time. The up-and-coming synth-pop bands of the 70s took full advantage of this, and a whole scene was created due to the availability of these types of synthesizers. Korg continued to innovate throughout the 70s, creating the incredibly sophisticated Polyphonic series in 1977, and shortly after this the MS-10 single oscillator synthesizer, along with the MS-50 single oscillator modular synthesizer, the SQ-10 sequencer, the VC-10 vocoder, and in 1978 the MS-20. Designed chiefly by Hiroka Nishishima, the MS-20 was a dual oscillator semi-modular synthesizer. Despite being one of the first affordable semi-modular synths, it didn't catch on instantly. Synthesis was still relatively new, and the MS-20 was not instantly loved by its buyers. Instead, by the late 80s, MS-20s were regular finds in second-hand stores, and the MS-20 didn't make its lasting impression until the analog revival of the 90s. Its popularity, though, has really grown ever since. In particular, the musicians and producers of the French scene in the late 90s helped its popularity. Nicolas Godin of the band Air recalls this period. He said, "In France, it was really easy to find used vintage Japanese gear like Roland, Korg, etc. Even more so because we were buying gear in the age where stuff like the Yamaha DX7 and Korg M1 were popular. So at the end of the day, having vintage gear didn't mean much. I think that Jean Benoit got his MS-20 for only $150 and later the SQ-10 sequencer. In contrast though, it was practically impossible at the time to find American gear, like sequential circuits, Lin and Oberheim, Moog, etc. I also found my own MS-20. I remember the guy I bought it from. It was clear that it was obviously killing him to have to sell it, and it broke my heart to break up the two of them, because I saw his wife and a newborn in the corner. When he showed me how to use it, I could sense that he knew it was the last time he'd be playing it, and I swore to myself that in buying it from him, I'd do everything in my power to use it wisely in the honour of his sacrifice. And seeing as how we recorded all the Air albums with it, I kept my word." One of the main reasons for its popularity is its filters, offering simultaneous high and low pass with extreme resonance due to the added peak control. These filters create a unique resonant self-oscillation and unrivaled saturation when pushed to extremes. The external signal processor allows users to control the synth via an external audio source, meaning you could run your guitar or microphone through it. These features, along with the patching flexibility, encourage creativity and experimentation. Unique in its functionality, sitting in front of the Korg MS-20 meant you had to try new things to get results. Goldfrapp have used the MS-20 to great effect on Alison Goldfrapp's vocals on much of their work. You can hear it on a vocal solo on their track Lovely Head from the Felt Mountain album. The Korg MS-20 allowed a whole new world of possibilities for the modern sound designer, with an infinite potential for crafting bass sounds, leads, textural noises, and even kicks and snares. Richard James, aka the Aphex twin, claimed that most commercial synths need some sort of modification, but the MS-20 is just perfect as it is. The original MS-20 had two slightly different filter designs depending on when it was released. The very first version had the Korg 35 filter, and later the KLM 307 daughter board containing the LM13600 filter was added. Popular belief was that if you could see the screws here, then it was the later LM13600. But in reality, the screw goes into a spacer post, the other end of which is screwed through the heatsink. Consequently, the screw does not mean it's definitely the LM13600 filter. To check, all you have to do is unscrew the left end panel and look inside. If there's a daughter board connected to the back of the main KLM127 board under a heatsink, it's the LM13600. If not, then it's the Korg 35. One of the most famous uses of the synth was on the track Flat Beat by Mr. Oizo. Legend has it that Mr. Oizo creator, Quentin Dupieux, would tape a key on his MS-20 down and leave it blasting for hours to warm up the circuits before recording. The front panel would get almost too hot to touch. In recent years, the MS-20 has gained attention with the experimental, ambient and techno scenes due to its unparalleled ability for experimentation and sonic manipulations. So much so that the company has released the MS-20 Mini, a shrunken replica of the original, faithful to the original model's circuitry at just 86% of the size. In 2020, they then released a full-size version for those that really pined for a full remake. Korg has also released the MS-20M kit, an unassembled module kit sold without the keyboard, but instead in conjunction with the SQ1 sequencer. Lastly, as part of the Legacy series, the company has released the MS-20 VST, which features an addition of 32 voice polyphony and can be controlled by an external module. There is of course the iOS versions, and even a hardware controller in the form of the MS20, so you can get hands-on with it. These can be found second-hand for around $200 if you keep a lookout. With its popularity gaining traction in the 90s, the MS20 has had a lasting appeal ever since, and due to its accessibility and signature tone, it's one of the icons that helped shape modern electronic music. It's remained as popular as ever, and producers today continue to be inspired by it. Calvin Harris recently said, "I've been pulling a few vintage bits of kit off the shelves too. Things like the old Roland Juno 106 and Korg MS20. All you need is one sound and you're off on a journey. Who knows where you'll end up?" Indeed, that is true. So on that note, I'm going to get inspired myself and see what I can do.